Okay, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Look, we're going to get started today, just kind of tailing off from what we did yesterday. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about all of these different statements that can be signs when we may feel like we're stuck financially, right? I think yesterday we talked a little bit about let's go, right? And when we're talking about things that we get excited about, and it's turning into a situation where we're looking at our financial life and that part of our financial life that might not be working, and we're looking at maybe doing something to fix that, we get excited like we talked about yesterday, and we jump in and we say, well, let's go. Let's just get it done. And we're going to turn it around. Remember, we were going to turn it around. The next statement that we get a habit of having and saying or thinking is, what next, right? You ever have one of those days where you get up and you're thinking, what next? And I don't mean in the context of what next is the next task to do. I'm talking about that feeling that you get, what next, like what next could go wrong, right? We've all had that feeling financially. What next? You know, the bill collector, this is past due, this is late. I don't know where my credit's at. I don't know where my bills are at. And we start thinking, and it just kind of piles on and piles on. And then the next thing that we know, we're thinking and we're feeling and we're acting like what next is going to happen. This is another one of those signs that I talk about that gives you an indication that something's not working. And we get stuck and we get frustrated because it's not working, but we really haven't decided what needs to be done in terms of working, because it just seems so much all of the time that it's overwhelming. And then we talked a little bit yesterday about the different personalities, right? In money and in life, every aspect of our life, we have different aspects, right? We have different aspects of personality and how we deal with money. And the way that this works is that you have generally one that is predominant personality, and then one that's a little bit more less dominant or subordinate. And the dominant personality types for money relationship or your relationship with money would be the saver, or maybe you're the spender, or maybe you're the seeker, maybe you're the gambler, the risk taker, maybe you're the giver or the flyer. Each of these personality traits tells a little story about our relationship with money. And oftentimes what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out why things aren't working, but probably more than that, we're trying to figure out how to make shit work. And when it comes to financial stuff, when it comes to money, sometimes it gets confusing and it's overwhelming. The other part of that is when we're talking about these questions, it's not so much the question that we're asking, it's the question that we're not asking. In other words, when we're looking at our financial life and we're looking at all of the things that involves, and you start breaking that down, you actually realize there's a lot of stuff that's moving around in your financial life, and it's like, geez, how do you keep track of all of this stuff? And what happens is, for the most part, most people, me included, I've done this, I've been there, we just kind of go day to day, right? Week to week and month to month. And we hope at the end of the month, we have more money left than went out. And generally what I learned a long time ago is I ran out of money before I ran out of month. And that feeling just sucks. What that's a sign of is that, and all of these things that I'm talking about are little signs that the relationship or how we interact with our financial life might not be working to give us the things that we're desiring to have in our financial life. And so I talked a little bit about that yesterday, And I talked about this one client, John. And remember when John would come in, and it seemed like he was on this wheel, like a dead hamster. About every 2 or 3 years, he'd come in and he'd have another problem. This time it was a little bit bigger than the last problem. This time it involved more credit, more bills, bigger tax bills. And what we discovered is that when John would come in, John would only come in by himself, would never bring Mrs. John, the wife, right? And so that was kind of a sign. About the third time that this happened, I started thinking to myself, you know, why are we only talking to John and we're not talking to Mrs. John? You know, let's get Mrs. John down here. And I think her name was Deborah or something like this. It's been a long time. And so finally we got them down there and we went through the whole situation. And it wasn't that he had a problem with his bills. It wasn't that he had a problem with his taxes. What it was is the relationship that they had with their money was contributing a lot to this things not working. And so when we talked yesterday about getting an idea and we're going to jump in and we say, let's go, that's just probably not going to work because we're hoping that we're going to turn shit around and it ain't going to turn around. So today I'm going to talk about what next and that feeling that we get. And that feeling that we get when we say or think what next is this time is different. Okay, so we're going to start with that. Let's dig in. When we're thinking to ourselves, this time will be different. Remember the Charlie Brown and Lucy thing? You know, Lucy's holding the football. Charlie Brown's running up to kick the football, lands on his ass. And he keeps doing that same thing, thinking that he's going to get it different. This time will be different. This time will be different. This time I really mean it. This time I swear to God I'm going to do it. Man, I got to tell you, I went through that whole period where I did the same thing. And it was like, you know, it wasn't different. And all I ended up was pissed off, frustrated. I'd spend money for this and I'd spend money for that. I ran out of month before I ran out of money. I ran out of money before I run out of, it was just all over the place, right? And when we're having those feelings where we're thinking to ourselves, what next? It's not the next task. We're thinking what next, like what next is going to go wrong, right? So we're all set up for the next thing to drop and go wrong. And what happens is that sets our mind up and we just can't see through all of these different things that are moving in our financial life. You got money coming in, you got money going out. We're trying to get a retirement plan. We're trying to get a house. It's just, it can get overwhelming. And it's not that it's overwhelming. There's no order to it. And what I learned and what we have helped people try to understand is that really the relationship financially is a little chaotic. There's no order to it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about this time will be different and how that's a sign that maybe things are not still working and we need to look at something a little bit different in how our approach. Later in the week or early next week, we're going to have an assessment tool. You're going to be able to go up there and download that. And you're going to be able to take that little assessment and find out what your predominant money personality is. That's kind of cool. And what's cool about it is it changes a little bit over time. You kind of float in and out of two primary, secondary money type personalities. You're going to be the saver, the spender, the seeker, the gambler or risk taker. You're going to be the giver or the flyer. That's one of those is going to be your dominant, controlling, and then there will be one of those that will be your secondary or subordinate, will be a little bit less controlling. Why that's important is because you want to understand how you relate with and to money, your financial life. And once you understand how you relate with your money, it's like a stick in the head, man. It's like the light goes off and you think, oh yeah, that's why I do that. It's not that I'm doing stuff wrong. It's just that's how I learned, right? And remember when we were kids and you know, somebody in our family, our uncle, our auntie, maybe our mom or our dad or our stepmom and stepdad, whatever, would tell us that, you know what, you should save some of your money for a rainy day, right? Save your money for a rainy day. What they didn't tell us was that every day it rains, right? And then what do? And so they had great intentions, but boy, they gave us really crappy advice. It's not about saving money for a rainy day. It's about the relationship that we have with the money. And so if you think or believe, like I used to think and believe, that this time is going to be different, I want to help you understand that that's good, that you're thinking that this time will be different, but really, if we don't change the relationship that we have with our financial life, nothing's going to be different. We're going to get same old, right? We're going to still be the hamster on the wheel, and eventually we're going to be the dead hamster on the wheel, and eventually we're going to get so frustrated we just throw our hands up and we don't know what to do. I've had days like that. I get up and I think, what next? You know, what bill collector is going to, and I just had a list of the priorities of bill collectors, when they would call and how I would do it. And man, it's just like I set my life up to be just this, a vast amount of time and effort and energy managing late bills. And I just, you know, at some point you just got to ask, man, is that how I really want to live? Is that how I choose to live? Nobody wants to choose to live like that. And so what we do, and pay attention to this, because this is where it really starts. And I'm going to spend the rest of this week laying this out carefully so you can really get the big picture here. If you get the big picture, the small shit will take care of itself. What I want to do is make sure that you see that you're on a path. And maybe this time things will be different because you're going to do something differently. And that's assess the relationship that we have with money. That's assess where we're at. And that's really taking a look and making sure we've done everything on a very small list of things that give us some clear indication of what our financial life is, right? It's not good or it's not bad, but if it's not working for you, we got to do something about that so that it starts working for you. And the challenge is we get this crap in our head and we get an idea, and it's not an idea, it's a thought, and it tickles our brain and we feel good for a minute. We get a bunch of happy juice in our brain and we jump off and we're ready. Let's go, let's go. You know, this time is different. What next? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No. That's not how it works. And so what happens, we set ourselves up in this pattern. Remember I talked about patterns? Sleeping, eating pattern, walking pattern, speaking pattern, language pattern. You have a money pattern. I have a money pattern. And when I started breaking it down and started understanding that the pattern was disconnecting in a couple of spots, and the pattern was set up, and I had set things up so I was always managing late bills, it just kind of struck me that, man, I just need to set this up a different way, because this is why this shit ain't working for me. And so let me tell you about the 3 steps in the process. And tomorrow I'm going to give you another part of the story about John and Deborah and how that all turned around. And the 3-step process, it's like a 3-legged stool, right? The cool thing about a 3-legged stool is the 3rd leg, because without it, you're going to fall down, right? You get that? So the coolest thing about the 3-step process is the 3rd step. So let me give you step 1. Step 1 is you've got to do this personality assessment. You got to figure out, what the hell is my relationship with my financial life, with my money? What kind of money relationship do I have? And what was so interesting about John and Deborah is that they were total opposites in terms of financial life. Nothing wrong with that, nothing right with that. But it was shocking to them, because they were in the marriage, right? They were dealing with the shit every day, right? And they didn't even realize that they were so opposite in how they viewed money. They were so opposite in how they dealt with money. And that's the interesting and cool thing. Can be a pain in the ass, because sometimes when we have disagreements or arguments, let's call them whatever they are, with a spouse, it's not about the money, right? The money is the subject that triggers the emotion. It's about all the other shit that we're packing down. And I used to say, it's not about all the baggage that we carry around in our life. Baggage is baggage. We all got baggage, right? What's important is how you pack, really. That's what's important. If you've got a lot of baggage, great. Just get good at packing shit, right? And then it's a lot easier to deal with. Just let all that shit go. What we're trying to figure out is, how do we relate with money? What is our relationship like? And why is shit not working when we seem to try everything under the sun and it still doesn't work? All right, so step one is we do the assessment. Takes you about 15 minutes, and it's a self-assessment. So you're on the honor system. It's your life, it's your money, and you can't lie to yourself. So don't try to do that. It'll filter out and at least show you there's no bad answer. There's no good answer. There is just the definition. And it helps you understand maybe why some of this shit doesn't work, and maybe why you get frustrated, and maybe why you get into an argument. It's not about the money. It's about how we relate to each other, or how we relate with the money. Once we have the assessment in terms of our money personality, then we do the financial assessment. We got a lot of people right now going through this next step in doing the financial assessment. And it's real simple. We want to have a list of what we own. We want to have a list of what we owe. We want to have a list of what we have. We want to have a list of what we need. And we want to know where we are, and we want to know where we desire to be financially. Now, that sounds pretty simple, but it takes a little bit of time, because each one of those 6 questions has a couple of parts to it. All right, so there's the 2 legs of the stool. We do the personality assessment, step 1. We do the financial assessment, step 2. And then step 3, this is the 3rd leg. This is the most important leg. Then we do the measure, right? The measure. We're going to take a measure, and we're going to know from that measure, we're going to be able to determine where you're going to be able to determine where you are today. Not yesterday. We don't care. Yesterday is gone, right? Not tomorrow. It ain't here yet. Let's focus on where we are today. As I sit here today, my relationship with money is I am the saver. And my assessment is what I own, what we own, what I owe, what we owe. All of those things line up. And now I'm doing the measure for the next important question. Where do I want to be projecting forward in, let's just give an example, 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, right? If you could project forward just 10 years and work back to 7 years, and work back to 5 years, and work back to 3 years, and work back to 1 year, and then we start working back by month, what happens is, from reversing the process, flipping it, we start to get a different perspective. And here is where the stick in the head hit me. When I saw where I wanted to be, and I saw where I was, and I realized the relationship personality that I had with my money, I realized it was not congruent. In other words, that's what I said, but that's not what I did. it wasn't congruent. It wasn't lined up. And I mean, it was like a revelation. It showed me that no matter what I said, what I did was almost the opposite. And so I had to learn this different way of thinking. And over time, it really worked, and it works a lot today. It's like you got to be congruent. If that's what you say, then let me ask you a question. Is that what you mean? And if that's what you mean, is that what you do? And if you're not doing what you say or mean, then let's fix something so that you can be congruent, right? Man, it was like, if I had a stick, I'd show you. Stick in the head. I get it. I got it. And bam, man, I was off to the races, because now it was like I unlocked this mystery. I unlocked this shit about why things weren't working, and I was doing the opposite shit of what I needed to be doing based on that money assessment personality thing. And it didn't matter how much I said this. It didn't matter how much I meant this. You know, a lot of times we say stuff that we don't mean. You ever say something you don't mean? All right, well, we all do that. I don't have much of a filter, not at this stage of my life. It's not that I'm mean or nice or this or that. I just say shit. And sometimes, you know, you just got to pull it back and put a filter on it. But oftentimes what I recognize is we say stuff that we don't necessarily mean. And when it comes to our money, that's even more true. And so that third leg of the stool was like such a critical deal, because I recognized that I was doing stuff that was not congruent with what I desired. And that's why I was stuck. I mean, I had set my life up in a way where I was just managing chaos, right? I got really good at putting off the bill collector. And it's like, who wants to live like that? And when I figured that out, and I started doing things different and started being congruent. If I say something, I do something. If I say something that I mean, then I really do something, right? And if I can't do it, then I renegotiate. And so if I make a commitment and I can't keep the commitment, I'm going to renegotiate, or I won't make the commitment. In other words, I was doing shit and it wasn't congruent. It wasn't who I was and what I valued in the choices that I was making. And so these tools that we've worked with, the tools that we've designed, are really designed to give you the freedom that you desire. But we got to start at the ground level and start building the foundation. We got to do the assessment. We got to know where our money personality is. We got to do the assessment, know where we're at. We've got to project forward, know where we want to be. And then we look at the personality. We look where you want to be. And then you're going to have the stick in the head, not literally, but you're going to have that moment of stick in the head that you're going to realize and think, shit, now I get it. This is why, because we set this shit up all backwards, right? We set it up to have late bills. We set it up to manage late payments. We set it up to manage late fees. Man, you start looking at that and your whole freaking life changes. And the cool thing, and on Friday, I'll give you the end of the story with John and Deborah, because it was so cool. And when they really got it, and man, it wasn't about my money, your money, his money, her money. No. That was all noise. That was all bullshit. You set your money up however you want to set your money up with your spouse, your good significant other, whatever. That's not what it's about. What it's about is, if you don't understand that both of you have two different personalities, both of you have two different money personalities, it might be the reason that shit ain't working is because you're going in like 6 directions, and you got to figure out how to get on the same page. And then go in, at least you got what you want, you got what he or she wants, and then you got to have what you want together. There's 3 people in the marriage. There's you, your spouse, and the collective, you together. So you got to figure that out when you've got a significant other. And the thing about it that's so cool is when you have that stick in the head moment, man, you never see it the same way again. You flip that like in an instant, like a flapjack, man. You're just flipping that thing over right now, and you're on a path, and you're going to knock it out of the park. See, all we need is a little bit of tool. All we need is a little bit of guidance. All we need is a different way of looking at shit. And that's what I think is so cool about mentoring. Remember, I talked about coaching. Coaching is great. When you need a coach, get a coach. Okay, because a coach is going to be good at showing you what and how to do something. If it's yoga, if it's throwing a football, I don't care what it is. Sometimes you've got to have a coach. When you need an advisor, they're really good at telling you what and why to do something. Here, you invest in the retirement and buy bonds because bonds work good. That's why. What and why. But if you want an experience that will transform your life, you need a mentor. Because a mentor doesn't care about what and how. A mentor doesn't care about what and why. A mentor cares about you, your life, and creating the experience to transform for the things that you desire. And the only way you can do this shit is have an experience of doing, not deciding. Deciding, you're already decided, right? But you're stuck like I got stuck. And when I get stuck, at least I know why and how. And the whole cool thing about that three-legged stool, that third leg, is once you figure out that you probably aren't congruent and you're saying shit that you really mean. We have great intentions, but man, the fucking execution just sucks, right? Excuse my French, but it just sucks. And what we've got to do is we got to figure out a different way, because if that's not working, we're just going to end up being a dead hamster. Nobody wants to be a dead hamster. All right, final thought. Time and money, right? Time and money. Ever hear the saying about time is money, right? So what I want to do is, because I'm going to be introducing this a little bit more toward the end of the week as we go into next week, because I'm working on next week and I'm going to blow you away. We can spend a lot of energy going in a lot of directions, but let me give you a simple, because it's up in the group and you can download it. And you want the Time Money with Keys download. Time Money with Keys. There are 5 modes to money and 5 modes to time, and each of those modes has 3 keys. This is part of another assessment once you do the money personality assessment. You can go up and play with it, look at it, have some thoughts, write some notes, whatever. You can be making money, you can be spending money, you can be saving money, you can be investing money, and you can be wasting money. Those are the 5 modes, okay? Time. You can be making time for shit, you can be spending time on stuff, you can be saving time and not wasting it, you can be investing time on doing something, and you can be wasting time, okay? So time and money. Time is money. Time is infinite, so you can't ever run out of time. When you say, I ran out of time, no, that's the devil talking to you, girl, and you better tell that devil to shut up, because you can't run out of something that is infinite. Maybe we didn't set priorities. Maybe we weren't being congruent. Maybe we weren't following through, but we ain't running out of time, okay? You can run out of money, but it's the relationship with time that's driving this, and that's the congruent thing. That's that third leg. And I'm telling you, this is a stick in the head moment. When you get this, nobody will ever take it from you. You get it.